On this week's Vaticano, Pope Francis confirms he'll be traveling to the U.S. next year for the World Meeting of Families. The Vatican hosts an interfaith gathering united in upholding marriage between one man and one woman. Ahead of the Pope's trip to Turkey next week, we speak to an Iraqi bishop and an Islamic expert about their expectations. And we follow the Holy Father as he denounces abortion and euthanasia as sins against the Creator. There is an increasing demand for exorcisms in the world, according to this psychiatrist, and this Italian archbishop opens the academic year at the Pope's University with a reflection on the university as a family. All this, plus a renowned Russian painter's latest masterpiece, and the Sistine Chapel Choir releases a new album, coming up on Vaticano.
I wish to confirm, if God wills it, that in September of 2015 I will go to Philadelphia for the 8th World Meeting of Families.
The Pope's announcement came on November 16th while speaking at this Vatican conference on the complementarity of man and woman. And there was one man in the crowd who could not have been happier with the timing.
My reaction on hearing the Pope's confirmation of coming to Philadelphia was great joy, because it's going to make the event even a triple reason to celebrate, but also relief, the fact that he's publicly now said what he's told me privately, that he's going to come. So we can, in a more formal sense, prepare with our state and national leaders for the welcoming of the Holy Father. You know, we have concrete expression of his interest and commitment, so I'll be able to get concrete responses from the broader community in the United States to support his visit.
Pope Francis will cap off a week of celebrations in Philadelphia for the World Meeting of Families. From September 22nd to the 27th, families from Philly and beyond will be there.
We have people coming from all continents. You know, we've come up with a scholarship program to help the poor come from various parts of the world, because this is supposed to be a meeting of the whole world and not just people who can afford to travel to the United States. So we really have plans to make this a very inclusive gathering from people from all over. And I look forward to being part of that celebration. Well, what we hope to achieve through the meeting is the strengthening of family life, not only in the Catholic Church, but in the world, and insofar as we can contribute to others' clarity of thinking about marriage, and most importantly, the commitment of husbands and wives to each other for the sake of their children.
Pope Francis is also expected to confirm a visit to the United Nations in New York City, where he has an open invitation to address the Assembly. Representatives of 14 world religions gathered in the Vatican Synod Hall from November 16th to the 18th for an interfaith event called Humanum. It focused on the complementarity of man and woman and the nature and value of the family.
We as Catholics have a very rich theology of marriage, and much in the same way as Pope John Paul II gave us a new language, a new way of talking about love and nuptial intimacy, we were seeking a way to speak about marriage in a new context, in a global context. And what we began to think about and what we began to see is that all of the world's religious traditions have various ways, various expressions, various theologies, various philosophies of proclaiming marriage, and what proclaiming marriage as a complementary union between a man and a woman. And so the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, sensitive to the fact that marriage is not just a Catholic issue, but a human issue, wanted to bring that wisdom, if you will, of the world's religious traditions to as wide an audience as possible, given the current cultural climate that we live in.
Participants met for 3 days, uniting the experiences of hundreds of leaders who agree on at least one thing, that marriage is between one man and one woman.
We thought it would be good if we came together across the faiths, across the world, to say this is a marriage, this is an institution that needs our support and deserves it for the sake of future generations.
You can see the witness to marriage and the beauty and power of marriage in all the different religious traditions, how it's good, it's true, it's unifying, it's one, it's beautiful.
And it's very interesting. We've got people from every kind of religious traditions, even ones I've never encountered before, all from their different perspectives saying it does matter, and it matters very much, that a marriage is between a man and a woman.
For more information on the conference, including video, visit www.humanum.it. On Saturday, November 15, Pope Francis received the Association of Italian Catholic Doctors in the Vatican's audience hall. He spoke to them of their right to conscientious objection and called abortion and euthanasia examples of false compassion.
The dominant thought suggests sometimes a false compassion, one that believes it as a help to women promoting abortion, that euthanasia is an act of dignity, that producing a child is a scientific conquest and considered a right instead of accepting it as a gift, or using human lives as guinea pigs to presumably save others. We are living in a time of experimenting with life, but these are bad experiments. Making children instead of welcoming them as a gift, like I said, playing with life. Be careful, because this is a sin against the Creator, against God the Creator, who has created things in His way.
Per salvarne presumibilmente altri.
The following day, during his Angelus prayer, Pope Francis spoke of the parable of the talents. He also stressed the importance of improving relations between Roman residents and immigrants.
In questi giorni a Roma ci sono state tensioni.
There have been quite strong tensions between residents and immigrants these days in Rome. They are events that take place in various European cities, especially in outlying areas marked by other hardships. I invite institutions at all levels to take up this priority that now constitutes a social emergency which, if not addressed promptly, properly, has the risk of degenerating more and more. May the Christian community engage in a concrete way so that there is no confrontation, but rather an encounter. May citizens and immigrants, representatives of institutions, come together, even in a room of their parish, and talk about the situation. The important thing is not to give in to the temptation of fighting, reject all violence. It's possible to talk, listen, plan together, and in this way overcome the suspicion and prejudice that builds a more secure, peaceful, and inclusive coexistence.
Sempre più sicura, pacifica e inclusiva.
Stay with us after the break. This psychiatrist speaks of the urgent need for exorcists today, and the Archbishop of Milan explains the family-like nature of the university. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano. Pope Francis will be in Turkey from November 28th to the 30th. Officially, it's to visit the Orthodox Patriarch of Constantinople and state leaders around the November 30th feast of St. Andrew. But Turkey is also the destination for thousands of refugees from nearby Iraq and Syria. And there's hope that he'll unite Muslims and Christians to better address the growing humanitarian crisis.
I hope this visit will bring some change in the what we call the Turkey's attitudes. You know, Turkey is a neighboring country, it's a very important country for Iraq. Their support for stopping the Daesh, the ISIS, should be more concrete. So I hope that the Pope the visit of the Pope will change this to more commitment. We've been hearing over the last 2 months that the Turkish government is taking serious steps, but we would like to have more on this issue, knowing that one of the channels to get fighters to the Syria-Iraq borders is via Turkey. So if Turkey would be more engaging in this would help. So we hope that the Pope's visit will address this issue and at least to stop, otherwise it's a disaster.
Muslims, Christians, Yazidis, others have lived for centuries together in Iraq and in Syria. We have some of the oldest churches some of the oldest temples in these places. And as a Muslim, I do not want to have these people who have been our brothers and sisters, our neighbors for centuries, being ethnically cleansed or religiously cleansed from these areas.
Although it's been happening for centuries, Catholics and Muslims' engagement and dialogue is now more official. The Catholic-Muslim Forum, clerics and experts of both religions, met from November 11th to the 13th, ahead of the Pope's trip. Pope Francis' trip to Turkey was also on their mind.
It is a good occasion to speak of collaboration between our Pontifical Council and the Presidency of Religious Affairs of Turkey. And we have been there in May because we had a declaration of intent signed here in 2002, and we needed to update this. So my hope is that more understanding, more meetings, more mutual knowledge between religious leaders of both religions, also believers. This is a meeting well prepared and well done, gives more chance to dialogue, to improve, to progress, and at the same time it sends a message. The very fact of meeting together, of speaking to each other respectfully, of exchanging a little gift, this is a message to our people of the two communities.
This psychiatrist is the spokesman of the International Association of Exorcists. The association's members, about 250 of them, met in October in Rome behind closed doors at the Regina Apostolorum University.
In comparison to a few years ago, the number of exorcists has increased. I always say there's also a need. It's becoming a pastoral emergency. At the moment, the number of disturbances of extraordinary demonic activity is on the rise. We remember here the theme of demonic activity that is represented by infestations, by diabolical obsessions and vexations and possessions, as many people know. They're increasing these cases, so it's truly becoming a pastoral emergency, and this is why we have the necessity to combat this situation, also, and especially thanks to the work of exorcists. The increase of these phenomena is surely due to a faith that today is now diminished in people, but also and especially, besides demonic activity, to the development of an interest and practices that have to do with the esoteric world, occultism and Satanism.
The International Association of Exorcists includes exorcists and those who collaborate closely with them.
There are some countries in the world that don't even have one exorcist. Demonic activities and the consequences that we spoke of are spread throughout the world. It's not a cultural phenomenon. It's not conditioned by links to an ethnicity, not limited to a geographic area.
Their ministry of exorcism involves prayers of liberation and consolation for the suffering individual. During a cloudy Wednesday, Pope Francis spoke of how to obtain holiness during his weekly general audience. He calls holiness a gift of God.
Today's catechesis focuses on the universal vocation to holiness. What does this vocation consist in, and how can we realize it? We do not obtain holiness by our own capacities or personal qualities. It is, above all, a gift of God that our Lord Jesus gives us, clothing us of Himself. In this way, nobody remains excluded in the call to holiness, which constitutes a distinctive character of all Christians, who are urged to live with daily love and testimony, each one with the conditions and state of life in which he finds himself. In the first letter of St. Peter, we hear, "May each one live according to the grace received, placing it to the service of others, like good administrators of the grace of God." The call to holiness is not a heavy burden, but rather an invitation to live with joy and love each moment of our life, transforming it at the same time in a gift for the people that surround us. Each step towards holiness makes people better, free of selfishness and open to the brothers in their necessities.
Although it's been a month since it ended, the Synod of Bishops on the Family is still very present in people's minds in Rome. As the countdown to the second round of meeting in October of 2015 continues, participants in the Synod are applying the lessons of the discussions in all areas of life. Here at the event to open the academic year at the Pope's University, the university itself was being compared to the family unit.
It's like a family that needs to have a total openness to reality, based on a united dialogue, because solidarity makes history, and it should be a going out, should be a missionary reality, not a place of closed doors, which works only on a knowledge based on books, but a dialogue, a scientific work that accepts the going out and repeats the same movement that Christianity has started, Jesus started, from the peripheries. It should gather from all churches, like this papal university, the Pontifical Lateran University does. They should take to Rome the sensitivity of all their cultures and reflect and work on this, to then take this Catholic sensitivity back out to the periphery in a united way. The Pope defines this solidarity as the authentic way of making history.
The Pontifical Lateran University has 2,000 students in Rome from all continents, and about half of them are non-Italian. It's been also home to the Pontifical John Paul II Institute for Studies on Marriage and Family for the past 30 years. Cardinal Scola says its contribution to society and that of other Catholic universities is crucial.
Daily life itself at the university has the rhythm and style of a family, in which all of its components, students, teachers, staff, live a fraternal experience of ecclesial friendship, which starts from specific work, that is, research, teaching, and studying, in a permanent confrontation with the contemporary needs of reality. And so, evidently, the issues that came out in the first Synod Assembly, and which will be inserted organically into the second, will probably show also in the context of this university and other pontifical universities that they are places that deepen and understand well and lead people to the big question of salvation.
That puts university life in perspective as the year gets underway. Stay with us after the break. We take a look at the latest work of a Rome-based Russian painter, and the Sistine Chapel Choir releases a new album on Pope Francis. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano. There's a new organization that's focusing on integral human development through charity. It's called Caritas Veritate International. Members were at Rome's Humanum University the first week of November to speak of their mission.
Caritas is very linked with the proclamation of the gospel. And doing charity is not only giving food, giving material things, but giving God too. Because the main lack of man is not having God in our times especially. So charity is not only moving the church to the poor, giving them food, but giving them God too. Even Pope Francis said that the discrimination, unaccepted discrimination, is to give only food to the poor and refusing them to give gospel, to give the charity of God. So I think it's very important to express today that the hunger we are suffering today is not the hunger from food, but not having God in our life, in our society.
Charity must be always connected with truth. Otherwise, it is social assistance. There is something good, of course, but can be done by everybody. Christians have an additional reason to be close to the poor, the needy. And it is that Jesus Christ identified himself with these people when he said, "You have done it to me." This is why evangelization and work of charity should go hand in hand, as in the life of Jesus. In the life of Jesus, the gospel, we see a marvelous harmony between preaching the good news and healing the sick and feeding the hungry.
It's all based on Benedict XVI's 2009 encyclical Caritas in Veritate on integral human development. Several of the organization's members had the chance to meet the former pope on November the 6th as they were preparing for the meeting.
The Holy Father encouraged us. We were with him for about 45 minutes in his lounge. It was beautiful to be received by him. A man of great serenity, great wisdom, great humility. I would say there were three things he mentioned. The first is when we said to him, we thanked him for his encyclicals, particularly Deus Caritas, Es Caritas in Veritate. And he said to us, I'm very, very happy that these encyclicals are not simply being read, but they are being realized concretely through this organization.
For more information, visit their webpage www.charityandtruthint.com. Natalia Tereshova is known for her portraits of the popes, but her latest work depicts a 20th century Italian missionary to Brazil. Her name is Mother Assunta Marchetti.
I read a book on her life, and I fell deeply in love with her. She entered into my heart. It was such a difficult goal to paint such a strong missionary who is so endlessly merciful, with all her spiritual charism on canvas. But I felt as if Mother Assunta entered into my heart. I really felt this through the Holy Spirit, probably. And little miracles happened. Like I suddenly had the idea of drawing the boat that Mother Assunta is holding.
Blessed Assunta followed her priest brother to Brazil at the end of the 1800s to tend to Italian immigrants there. She founded the Scalabrinian missionaries and established several orphanages in Sao Paulo. Her care for the needy is depicted in the details of Natalia's painting, particularly in the boat she holds.
The fact that there are two sisters is very significant. This is one sister who is embracing a newborn baby as a symbol of love and mercy towards the other. This is the other sister who is giving a very thirsty child something to drink. This is also a symbol of mercy, love, and protection. Then there is a mother with two children. One is drinking water and the other is eating bread. Then there is a group of Africans, which, as Pope Francis has underscored, are very current. Mother Assunta is holding this boat with love as if it were her child, because the congregation is like her child.
An enlarged version of Natalia's painting adorned the Cathedral of Sao Paulo on October 25, where the Sisters' Beatification Mass was celebrated. Just weeks later, here in St. Peter's Square, Natalia offered Pope Francis a smaller copy of the painting, which on the back was signed by children in the Scalabrinian Sisters' ongoing orphanage apostolate in Brazil. The choir of the Sistine Chapel is releasing a new double CD on November 9, titled Habemus Papam. It includes all of the music they performed during the papal election and the first weeks of Pope Francis' pontificate in 2013, and they're hoping it will have international success.
It's the first time that the Sistine Chapel collaborates with a prestigious record label, and it is important because collaborating like this says two things. A status that allows the Sistine Chapel to collaborate with Deutsche Grammophon, and on the other hand, it's important for evangelization. Why? Because working with a record label like this one means being present worldwide. And this is exactly the difficulty to evangelizing. The reason why we immediately accepted and said this was something absolutely necessary was for the mission of the Sistine Chapel, which is the Church's mission of evangelizing.
The Sistine Chapel Choir is one of the oldest religious choirs in the world. It's made up of around 20 adult singers, 11 tenors and 9 basses, and 30 young boys. The boys are sopranos and contraltos. The Vatican pays for their schooling, which includes their singing lessons. The choir's current director, Monsignor Massimo Palombella, received his own training from one of the choir's previous directors, Domenico Bartolucci.